The former minister is due to appear in court in the coming days. Nakade is the sister-in-law of President Farag Nasingbe. She was married to his late brother and is the first woman to be defense minister. South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has detailed how some arrests ended up not being affected after 121 dockets were seized from the Political Killings Task Team. He is testifying before the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry in Pretoria. Mkhwanazi says the arrests were not made despite a court order to arrest the perpetrators of the crimes. He says the task team's dockets formed part of its investigations into corruption and political interference in law enforcement agencies.
For the period when these dockets were handed over to the head office, there were 5 of those dockets that had instruction to arrest suspects. Because the instruction came before the execution of those arrests, those dockets sat amongst the total dockets in the head office, and those arrests were not effected. What is more troubling about this is that the head office detective services had conducted some inspection on these dockets, as I indicated yesterday.
Police in Spain say they've arrested 19 people on charges of murder and torture on board a boat taking migrants from Senegal to the Canary Islands. Police suspect that some of the victims were accused of witchcraft. The BBC's Peter Hayat.
Police say about 50 of the 300 or so passengers disappeared during the 11-day journey on a boat which had no shelter from the elements. Some were reportedly thrown overboard because they complained about conditions, looked the wrong way at the alleged perpetrators, or were suspected of witchcraft when things went wrong. The boat was intercepted in August, and Spanish police say they completed their investigation unusually quickly because they received so many witness statements. The Canary Islands are a main entry point for irregular migration from Africa to Europe, with 47,000 completing the journey last year, and an unknown number dying along the way.
Lastly, U.S. President Donald Trump has described his second state visit to Britain as one of the highest honors of his life. He was speaking at a lavish banquet at Windsor Castle, where he was hosted by King Charles. Trump is expected to meet with the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer at his countryside residence later today. The BBC's Georgia Roberts.
The two leaders will view the Sir Winston Churchill archives held at the residence, playing to the president's great admiration for the wartime leader. Then it'll truly be down to business, with a bilateral meeting and a business reception both on the agenda. The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, will host the reception. There'll also be a news conference rounding up the day's events. After the careful choreography that's dominated most of Mr. Trump's unprecedented second state visit so far, this is the moment that's most at risk of going off script.
For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us at +27 11 714 4459. Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nsinsi.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, we'll give you updates of the ongoing World Championships out in Tokyo, Japan. While this weekend is all about the preliminary rounds of the CAF Champions League as well as the CAF Confederation Cup. Details at 12:30.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Oh, thank you to Onele Nzinzi and Msibudi Makura with our sports headlines and news update. It is 12:06 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's Audio Bouquet channel 802, an OpenView channel 628, and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores. Now join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406 9126 hashtag Africa Update and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or give us a call on +2711 714 4459.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Well, today on hashtag Africa Update Us, we focus on a recent report by the United Nations having found Israel guilty of a crime of genocide. Now, our question to you today is, what do you make of this report? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and at Channel Africa 1 on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406 9126. Hashtag Africa Update Us.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628.
Unofficial results coming out of Malawi is that former President Peter Mutharika is still leading in the vote counting. Malawans went to the polls on Tuesday to elect a new president, 229 members of the National Assembly and 509 local government councillors. According to the Malawi Electoral Commission, 7.2 million voters were enrolled after the 3 registration phases, with women constituting 57% of the electorate. And to speak to us further, we are joined on the line by our correspondent in Malawi, George Mango. George, good afternoon and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
A very good afternoon to you too.
Now, George, just for interest's sake, did you manage to cast your ballot yesterday?
Yes, I did go and I voted. So voting for me, it's a right. It's my democratic right.
Mm-hmm.
I voted at that's Chitawira Primary School in the commercial capital Blantyre. So yes, I did.
All right, George. And what you're seeing coming out of the election count, the vote counting, I beg your pardon, what's happening there? And, Mutharika, 85 years old and in the lead.
Exactly, and those are indeed unofficial results because the commission will announce who has won. That's by 24 September. But as it stands now, Peter Mutharika of the Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, is leading. And shortly in the next 2 hours or so, the Electoral Commission will be updating the nation as to what it has gathered, more especially with the votes being counted at a constituency level or at a regional level and then to the mental center, so that they match with the physical counting and then the electronic kind of counting. So that's the update that the nation will be told in the next 2 hours. Suffice to say that this morning has been a morning of press conferences by the Observer Mission, one of which is that of the SADC Observer Mission being led by King Swati. A number of issues have been highlighted. Some of the checks and balances for the Electoral Commission have been highlighted already.
And just give us those checks and balances. What did they see or what did they observe in their mission?
One of the issues which they have seen and suggested to the commission is use of the digital voting. They say that it's important for people to vote digitally. And they also say that there is need for the commission to have a post-election review. And they have also said that it's high time Malawi had a law that talks about independent parliamentary candidates, because what happens normally is that other parliamentary candidates who are independent, voted into parliament as independents, join political parties. So they are suggesting that there has to be a law to say if you are an independent, you should serve the nation or your constituents as an independent. No one should be joining political parties. So those are some of the major issues that the election observer teams have been highlighting just this morning.
Now, there were reports that security had been beefed up in this particular election. Just give us an update as to why these measures were put in place and were the specific areas that were focused on.
In terms of security has all been there in most of the polling centers. Police, some armed soldiers. It's been a tradition that votes being cast should be protected and to ensure that each and every Malawian is safe. And more especially in the strongholds of, say, Peter Mutharika in the southern region. Police are indeed almost everywhere. That has been the tradition, just like in the central region, the bedroom of President Lazarus Chakwera. So security has been tight, just like at the National Tally Center. You cannot just walk in without an identity card issued by the commission itself. So it's just an issue of making things right to avoid some mistrust against the Electoral Commission when it's announcing results, possibly by 24 September, results of the presidential candidate who has won will be declared. But it's a tight one because the key issue that is coming out clearly is that there should be or there will be a second round because at the moment 50% plus one looks to be a doubt even for Peter Mutharika, who is leading according to unofficial results.
Now, let's speak about this announcement or the declaration of the results, the presidential results on the 24th of September. Why such a period to wait for these results to be announced officially?
One, it's because the electoral calendar of events says so, and it's also in line with the electoral laws that the commission has to announce the results, more especially the presidential polls results by 24 September. And it's also indicated on the calendar of events by the commission. After that announcement, that's when they're going to announce parliamentary results and then ward councillors' results. So by 4 October, each and everything will have been made clear as to who has won.
And what are the citizens saying on the ground? With, if I remember correctly, 64% went out to vote. I think it was over 7 million that were registered, but only about 4 million, or just over 4 million, did go out to vote to cast their ballots. What are those that did not go saying with regards to why they didn't go, and the ones who did manage to cast their ballots? What are they saying? What are they hoping will come out from these elections?
For those people that did not go to cast their vote, there are two things that these people do talk about. One, lack of trust in the governments that maybe have been put in place. They are talking about some challenges that they face and continue haunting them. We are talking about corruption. We are talking about a high inflation. We are talking about fuel crisis, water crisis. So those are the issues that they said, even if they vote, nothing will change. Having learned some lessons from even the current government of President Lazarus Chakwera, which was entrusted through fresh presidential polls in 2020. So there has been that mistrust in the authorities or those people ruling. So it's something that definitely maybe with the second round in the offing, maybe they'll have to make to rescind their decision and possibly go and vote.
But also what's interesting, I think, going back to the previous elections where the partnership or agreements between the late vice president of the country, Chilema, and the president now, Chakwera, the fact that there was an agreement for them to work together in developing the country and improving on issues that the people had been complaining on, especially the economy. There's so much that was brought to the fore, but his passing as the vice president clearly left a huge dent in the leadership of the country.
A very big dent. A number of pacts were signed by 9 political parties led by Malawi Congress Party through Chakwera, one of which was about governance issues, the other labor creation, job opportunities, but all those kind of things were not fulfilled. And that is why there was like growing or emerging differences within the Tonse Alliance itself. And we saw a number of political parties walking out of the alliance itself. and Chakwera ended up having with his own party. So that is also something that has brought some mistrust, because we're talking about the party of UTM of the late Vice President Saulos Chilima. It had its policies and it also backed out. Now you tend to wonder to say, even if there is a second round, will the party of the late Saulos Chilima, which is UTM, be able to partner Chakwera? Those are the kind of questions that people now are asking. And the preference maybe for Peter Mutharika, it's more about why don't we go back to Peter Mutharika? You know, Peter Mutharika also won in 2014, ousting Joyce Banda, who had, talked more about helping Malawians, but people opted for Peter Mutharika. So this could be another turning point for the current government to think and understand that it did not perform according to the wishes of the people that voted for it in 2020 through an electoral Tonse Alliance agreement.
Well, George, we have run out of time and are going to leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you very much.
That's our correspondent in Malawi, George Mango, joining us on the line. It is 18 after 12 Central African time.
AUSISA, the Association of Water and Sanitation Institution of South Africa, is a platform uniting Africa's water professionals. This November, Africa leads the conversation on water and sanitation. Join global and African leaders at the AUSISA Africa and Global South Dialogue 2025 from the 9th till the 12th of November at the Emperor's Palace, Johannesburg. From policy innovation, this is where action meets collaboration for a water-secure future. Register today at ausisa-watersan-dialogue.org or follow at AUSISA on social media. AUSISA, working together for sustainable water and sanitation security in Africa.
Africa, voici Abedi.
Oui, c'est moi.
Abedi est un passionné de musique dans l'âme. Il a un goût pour toutes sortes de musique et passe ses journées à écouter Channel Africa.
J'aime beaucoup la musique africaine.
Ok. Devinez quoi? Channel Africa veut aider Abedi et les mélomanes du monde entier à découvrir encore plus de musique incroyable. C'est pourquoi Channel Africa appelle les artistes africains à soumettre leur musique. Chers artistes, n'oubliez pas de nous fournir toutes vos informations pertinentes à l'email adresse musique@channelafrica.co.za. Les soumissions sont votre chance d'être entendues, mais elles ne garantissent pas une playlist. Toutes les soumissions seront soigneusement examinées pour voir si elles répondent aux exigences de notre station. Channel Africa, la perspective africaine.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Well, here in South Africa, the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry is sitting for a second day into high-level accusations made by the KwaZulu-Natal Province Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. The commission is probing allegations of political interference within the South African Police Service. Mkhwanazi is continuing his testimony before the commission today and in the country's capital, Pretoria. And to give us the latest of what is coming out, we are joined on the line by our reporter who is attending the sitting, Dimakatso Lishoro. Dimakatso, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Afternoon, Lulu. Thank you very much for having me.
Now, what's the latest coming out of the sitting today?
So this morning we started with Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi completing his testimony from yesterday. As you recall, yesterday he was talking at length about how the political killings task team in KZN was disbanded, or the Minister of Police attempted to disband that task team. He's made mention today that as far as is concerned, that task team is still operational, and there's been no formal communication either to him or any of the prosecuting officers in KZN to the effect that that task team has been disbanded. So that is still operational. There is a budget that the police commissioner allows or allocates to that commission, to that team to do its work. So he's also then talked about the famous dockets, Lulu, the 121 dockets that I'm sure you are aware of, that were taken when the letter from the minister was sent to disband the task team. The dockets that were taken to General Sibiya's office he says that those dockets, when they were sent back to KZN, they found that there was nothing done on those dockets in terms of further investigation. He says that 5 of those had actionable arrests that were waiting to happen, and nothing happened. He made the point that as soon as those dockets were taken back to KZN and they were scanned, they effected the arrest, and the investigation that had paused are now continuing. So he's made mention of the fact, you remember, Lulu, that this commission is looking into corruption within the NPA, within the police, within the Metro Police, and politicians. He's made mention of how some cases were withdrawn by the National Prosecuting Authority in South Africa under questionable or over questionable reasons. These cases are quite serious, including murder, intimidation, unlawful possession of firearms, and how some of those suspects were given bails time over and over, even though they had already faced cases of or were facing cases of murder, in some instances up to 4 cases of murder, and they were still granted bail. So that's what we've been hearing thus far.
I did hear at some point he was talking about how some of the individuals were granted bail, having other cases, and also then committing other murders and other cases, then brought back to the court and still being able to get bail, which is quite interesting for cases that now that we're seeing. I mean, yesterday it was Kat Matlala's appearance in court, and his bail was denied. So it's a very interesting unfolding of events that we are seeing now. Any reaction to what the commissioner is saying that you're getting to hear in the commission so far?
So before we even go to that, Lily, just to add on to what you were just saying now, so what we've just been listening to currently is about Parliament, who are involved somewhat in this whole agenda to disband this task team is at the center of this political killings, of everything that the shenanigans that are happening within the SAPS aims politicians what their action of a member of Parliament of the National Coloured
Dimakazo, I'm going to ask you to go back to the position where you were in before we started losing you, because now you're breaking and we're losing out on a lot of information that you're giving us.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know if you can hear me now.
Okay, now that's a lot better. Okay. All right, let's try again. You were talking about how Parliament is also sort of involved or being highlighted as wanting this political task team to be disbanded.
He's made mention of one particular individual, Mr. Fadil Adams, who is the leader of the National Coloured Congress in Parliament, about how he is not a member of the Joint Steering Committee on Intelligence. You know that, Lulu, that is a secret committee that deals with South Africa's intelligence. The hearings are not held in public. All the information there is secret, and all the members there are vetted. This individual has not been vetted, but apparently he has access to intelligence. He's gone on to open cases alleging that some members, when vetting around issues that he shouldn't have access to because he's not a member of that committee. He's went to made allegations that there is abuse of a secret fund of within the intelligence, which he's not supposed to have that information. So the point that he's making is that you have members of Parliament who are abusing their position and are abusing their access to information and using that to get the minister to take actions which are seemingly of office. So this guy has went and opened cases in town. He's went and opened a case in Gauteng. Lulu, just to make one of the individuals that this gentleman has mentioned is Dineo Mukwele. Dineo Mukwele is one of the crime intelligence Khumalo. So you can see how
Dimakato,
intricate
unfortunately,
thing in the SAPS.
yeah, unfortunately, our connection is not the greatest. We keep losing out on key information, but we do get the gist of it. It's a case of, a friend giving a friend information, and then that friend kind of uses it for their benefit or whoever else's benefit, in the terms of Fadil Adams. Now, what is happening now in terms of at this point in time? I know you're chatting to us, but just the way forward and the questioning that is coming from the Commission. Are you finding any of it interesting?
Interesting. Mr. Mkhwana, the general mention of the DA Member of Parliament, Diane Collins. We don't know he's made mention of the fact that these members of Parliament have access to information they shouldn't have, and they've abused that. So we don't know what the allegations against Diane Collins Barnett are. She's a veteran Member of Parliament, so that will be interesting to hear what he has to say, given that the DA stance against corruption and, their endeavor to make sure that people are prosecuted. So we'll wait to hear this afternoon, I suppose after lunch, what allegations he's going to make against her. Just to note that these members of Parliament had not been given notices that they will be mentioned in the commission, but the commissioners have ensured or have said that they will get their notices, so they will get an opportunity to come and rebut some of these allegations.
Well, Dimakato, it's a very interesting one, what we're seeing unfolding, in terms of the police commissioner and how he's so calm. And he knows exactly what he's talking about and the questioning that is coming forward. But thank you so much for joining us for the updates, and continue keeping that pulse on your finger on the pulse as to exactly what is happening there, because our listeners and viewers are very keen to find out more about this commission. Thank you for joining us today. That's our reporter attending the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, Dimakato Lishoro, joining us on the line. It is 29 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's Audio Bouquet Channel 802, an OpenView Channel 628, and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores. Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406-9126 #Africa Updates, and let us know which country you're in. And it is 12:30, and our news headlines up next with Onelen Zinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Nigerian President Bola Tinubu has lifted a 6-month emergency rule in Rivers State. This comes after Tinubu reinstated Governor Siminalayi Fubari and other officials after saying that a constitutional crisis that had paralyzed governance had been resolved. Police in Togo have arrested the former Defense Minister Marguerite Nakade. Reports say she is accused of plotting against the state. And police in Spain say they've arrested 19 people on charges of murder and torture on board a boat taking migrants from Senegal to the Canary Islands. Channel Africa News, I'm Onelen Tsinsi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
And a very good afternoon from the sports desk. I am Musibu Dimakura with your latest sports news at the Sawa. So the 2025-2026 season of the Total Energies CAF Champions League officially gets underway on Friday with the kickoff of the preliminary stages of Africa's premier continental club competition. Now, this season marks a historic milestone with a record number of 62 clubs registered for the 2025-2026 season, underscoring CAF's ongoing efforts to broaden participation competition, as well as enhance the competitiveness of African football. So most of the preliminary round of the first leg fixtures will be contested between the 19th and the 21st of September, while the second leg match is then scheduled for the 26th to the 28th of September. Victorious clubs will then progress to the second preliminary round that is set between the 17th and the 19th of October, and then the 24th and the 26th of October. Onto this now, Namibia will host the King's Baton Relay next week as part of the countdown to the 2026 Commonwealth Games, which will take place in Glasgow, Scotland. Now, Namibia's National Olympic Committee Chief Executive Andre Parker says the relay is a long-standing tradition that has been part of the Commonwealth Games since 1958, adding it was initially known as the Queen's Baton Relay. The relay for the 2026 Commonwealth Games commenced in March of this year from Buckingham Palace and will culminate at the opening ceremony in Glasgow, Scotland on the 23rd of July next year. The marathon event also involves travelling through 74 nations as well as territories in the little less than a year. Namibia's two-time Olympian swimmer Philip Schleider will swim in the sea among the seals with the baton. In tennis news now, Iga Swiatek blew off the cobwebs of the US Open quarterfinal defeat to Amanda Anisimova to ease into the last 8 of the Korea Open earlier today. The 6-time Grand Slam champion from Poland beat Romania's Sorana Crestia 6-3 and 6-2 and will face either Emma Raducanu or Barbara Krejcikova in the semi-finals of this competition. Now, Swiatek sealed the first set in 45 minutes on the 6th set point. The top seed carried that momentum into the second set, breaking the Romanian immediately, and despite a few wobbles, Swiatek sealed the match with minimum fuss and into now the semi-finals of this competition. Back home now, athletes as well as road running enthusiasts have been assured that the annual Soweto Marathon will take place this year. The 30th edition of the event will now be on the 29th of November, starting from Nasrec in Johannesburg and crisscrossing the Soweto Township and then finishing at the FNB Stadium. Now, the annual event, popularly known as the People's Race, has experienced a number of challenges in recent times, from fighting for recognition of the rightful ownership of the race to the lack of sponsorship. The event that usually takes place on the first weekend of November now has a new date owing to other major gatherings in Gauteng taking place around that time. The race director, Danny Bloomberg, says moving the event to the 29th of November was due to logistical issues.
So we were all systems go for the 30th, and there is one last shift that I need to mention to everyone. That date was brought to our attention that it clashes with National Prayer Day, which happens at the Soccer City precinct. So our event cannot coexist on the same day for obvious reasons on the 30th. So we've decided to shift it to Saturday, the 29th of November.
Now, the existence of the Soweto Marathon also helps in enhancing the economy in the townships. Africa Bank came on board back in 2023 and is still committed to be part of the race for the benefit of the people of Soweto and those who are invested in road running.
This is a race about the people, but it's also a race about the economy of Soweto. That's so important. The township economy. We want money coming from outside of Soweto into Soweto. And that's what over 30,000 people who decide to run the race do for Soweto.
All right, so that concludes your sports news this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, don't forget to send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Alternatively, give us a call on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Are you fluent in French, Chinyanja, Portuguese, and Kiswahili? Are you passionate about radio? And are you looking to work in South Africa? Do you have papers that qualify you to work in South Africa? In that case, we might have an opportunity for you to work for Channel Africa. Send us your CV and demo at newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Remember, if you don't hear from us within 14 days, it means you have not made it or you have not been selected. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Business news on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Good afternoon. In our top business story this afternoon, Indian textile manufacturer Golcondas Exports says it plans to expand its production in Africa and boost shipments to the European Union and the United Kingdom. This as the punitive US tariffs threaten to lower the company's profits considerably. Golcondas produces about 90 million garments annually, with exports to the US, Canada, the UK and France accounting for the bulk of its $439 million revenues in 2025. The company says it's been gradually shifting part of its production to Kenya and Ethiopia, where tariffs are lower. It says it expects its core quarterly profit margin to shrink to single digits from around 12% in the first quarter of 2026. South Africa's Higher Education and Training Department have allocated just over $749 million from the existing budget to 34,000 students with blocked registrations, as well as to the second semester registrations. Last month, the financial aid scheme announced an over $575.8 million shortfall for the 2025-26 academic year, leaving thousands of qualifying students unable to register. The funding will also be used to pay student accommodation providers who the shortfall has affected. NESFA spokesperson Ishmael Mnisi.
These funds came out of the recoveries that we received from loans that were paid by former students, and also the money that was paid to institutions for either accommodation or tuition, which was not utilized fully. So institutions had to bring it back to NSFAS, and therefore we had to ask permission for us to utilize it for 2025.
A recent study has highlighted a significant financial disparity, with women in South Africa earning 15% less than men. As today marks International Equal Pay Day, it's clear that despite having better saving habits, women are still retiring with less. The Old Mutual assessed 500,000 fund members in its report. Head of Business Intelligence, Kerry Lee Edmond.
Why are women still retiring with less? And there are a number of reasons. And the first, which makes it an important conversation around both the recent Women's Day that we've had in South Africa and, as you said, Equal Pay Day, is that women are still being paid less than men. So our data research indicates that at around 15% less, and they also make up a smaller proportion of the higher income earners, dropping down to around 34% of the sample in the higher salary band, which suggests less opportunities to leadership and those higher paying roles.
Toyota is recalling 591,377 vehicles in the US due to an issue with the instrument panel display that does not show critical information, which increases the risk of crash or injury. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says recall covers several models, including Venza, Highlander, Lexus, Tacoma and GR Corolla. The agency says instrument panels may fail to display vehicle speed, brake systems and tire pressure warning lights due to an error in the instrument panel software at vehicle startup. Brazil's President Lula da Silva has warned that steep U.S. tariffs on goods from his country will drive up prices for American consumers. He says Brazilian exports of coffee and beef will become more expensive. In an interview with the BBC's Ione Wells, Lula said he had no relationship with his U.S. counterpart, Donald Trump.
We know that relations between the US and Brazil have been really icy over the last couple of months after President Trump decided in an unprecedented manner to impose 50% tariffs on Brazil, using the trial of Bolsonaro, which he calls a witch hunt, as his excuse to do that. The US also imposed sanctions on one of the Supreme Court judges and visa bans on him and his family, so that we knew that relations weren't particularly good between the two nations. Today, though, President Lula said that he had no relationship with Donald Trump, that was the point that it had got to.
And now for a look at the indicators, $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,490 naira this afternoon. In Botswana, it's 13 pula 11. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shilling 40. And in Zambia, it's 23 kwacha 40. Moving to the BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 30. Russia, 83 rubles 44. In India, it's 87 rupees 81. China, 7 yuan 10. And South Africa, $1 is trading at 17 rand 36 cents at this hour. $1 is trading at 73 pence to the British pound and 84 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $3,667 per ounce, platinum at $1,388 per ounce, while Brent crude oil is at $67.77 a barrel. And those are your business news. I'll be back with more in the next hour. For any business news stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Bontle Headbush.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
It is 12:43 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Now, looking at our big story being the vote counting in Malawi, we do have some Facebook comments on the elections there. The first one being Robert Amkaika saying he's coming back to State House. And Gada Levison Chibwana saying things change. Patrick Mgwada Mfune says great, and Justin Oche Chabwera says never. Now, these are just some of the comments that are coming through, and with our team on the ground there speaking about Peter Mutharika's lead, I beg your pardon. This could be just in response to that and what is unfolding there. So a lot coming out from that front. If you want to hear your name and your comment on Channel Africa, you do send us your thoughts and your views on what's happening and unfolding in the Malawi elections and the vote counting that will be declared final on the 24th of September. So something to look forward to. And also, we now focus on another story that has been highlighted also at the Madlanga Commission. This is the South African Police Service National Spokesperson Atlenda Mate saying an AK-47 assault rifle and 2 other firearms were seized in connection with the controversial businessman Vusmuzi Kat Matlala and Katiso KT Mulife have been linked to 18 murders and attempted murder cases, as well as other serious crimes. Now, the National Police spokesperson, Brigadier Atlenda Mate, elaborates.
Our teams have been hard at work in unraveling the number of serious and violent crimes that these suspects or accused have been involved in, particularly Kat Matlala and Katiso Molefe. So what we found thus far, you'll recall that in custody or in our possession, we have 3 firearms. We've got the AK-47 that has been linked to the murders of DJ Somebody, his 2 bodyguards, Aman Swart, Don Dinledi, DJ Vintos, and quite recently our ballistics experts also then linked it to the attempted murder of taxi boss Joe Sibanyoni. So we also have the 2 pistols that is in our possession, and if I can add, all these firearms were found during the Amand Swart arrest of those that were involved in the Amand Swart case. And you'll recall that on the day that Amand Swart was killed in Vereniging, it took our investigators and our teams a few hours, and they were already arrested in Johannesburg, and that is when these firearms were seized. So those other two pistols are also being linked to other crimes, but of importance is the DJ Vetti's case, in which he was also, there was an attempted hit on his life, but he fortunately survived. So our ballistics experts have positively linked these three firearms to about 18 cases, which include your murder, attempted murder, and other serious crimes. But you will recall that in the attempted murder of Ms. Tebogo Tobejane, we have not found that AK-47, but we do have a report that links that AK-47 to various other crimes, even though we do not have it in our possession. But our ballistics expertise were able to say, this is the firearm that we're looking for, and these are the crimes that it has already been involved in. We are dealing with a very dangerous and brutal syndicate that has been, committing serious and heinous crimes. But what is encouraging is that our members were able to intercept and stop these illegal activities and secure the arrest of these accused. And yesterday's decision to deny Kat Matlala bail is highly welcomed and appreciated, because firstly, we put forward that Kat Matlala is a flight risk because he's got two identity documents. He's got an African ID and he's got a Swaziland ID. In terms of the movement control, it shows that currently Kat Matlala is in Swaziland, because we investigated and we found that he actually went into either or not, he went into Swaziland or he stamped his passport by the border, pretending to go into Swaziland, but his passport also shows that there was no entry back into South Africa. So he is a flight risk. Secondly, our investigators' lives are at risk. We've had to beef up their security. They receive daily threats and so on, so it would not be in the best interest of the investigating team to have Kat Matlala being given bail. And thirdly, the witnesses, they must still testify when we go on trial. We need those witnesses really to secure conviction. So for now, Kat Matlala, we are linking him to three cases: attempted murder of Ms. Tebogo Tobejane, the attempted murder of taxi boss Joe Sibanyoni, and the attempted murder of DJ Vetti's. And in all these cases, you'll recall that when you look at the case of Tebogo Tobejane, she was not alone in the car. She was with three other people, and the one lady actually is paralyzed as a result of that shooting. So you have then attempted murder times four counts of attempted murder. And then in the Joe Sibanyoni case, we've got, he was also not alone. He was with two other people, but he was the only one that was injured. So you've got 3 counts of attempted murder in that particular case. And then you look at the case of DJ Vetti's, he was with 2 other friends when they were from a gig somewhere in Pretoria or Johannesburg. Those 2 other friends unfortunately also got wounded in that shooting. So it's 3 counts of attempted murder. So it's quite serious charges. So, but with the collaboration and great working relationship with the NPA, we were able to secure that denial of bail for Kat Matlala.
Now, that was South Africa's National Police spokesperson, Brigadier Adlende Mate, ending that report.
Channel Africa and you have got something in common. The thirst for knowledge.
The Palestine Human Rights Organization #Africa4Palestine welcomes the recent report by the United Nations that finds Israel guilty of a crime of genocide. The report was compiled by the United Nations Independent International Commission of Inquiry on the occupied Palestinian territory. And to speak to us further about this report, we are joined on the line by Ali Komape, Communications and Campaigns Manager for #Africa4Palestine. Ali, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon to you and your listeners, and thank you for having us.
Now, let's begin first with your reaction of the continued ground offensive by Israel's military into Gaza City.
In October 2023, when Israel started their genocidal campaign, Africa of Palestine and Palestinians in particular was among many others who said Israel is going to use this opportunity to commit genocide at unprecedented scales in Gaza. We could see what was going to happen. And we had warned to the United Nations and other international organs that there is a need to urgently deal with what is about to unfold in Gaza. And of course, in the near 2 years that Israel's campaign has been continuing, it is clear that there's a genocide. So when this report came about, we welcomed it. Alongside Palestinians, and we said, long overdue. Human rights organizations, international organizations have long said there's a genocide. Amnesty International came out with a report that there's a genocide in Palestine. Israeli human rights organization led by Israelis inside of Israel have said there's a genocide like Bethlehem. So there have been cumulative reports that show that there's genocide. The International Court of Justice said that there is a case of genocide for Israel to answer to in some of their judgments. The International Criminal Court has released a warrant of arrest for Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, and some of the Israeli ministers for war crimes. So there has been a number of organizations, reports, the international organs and so on that have said that Israel is committing genocide. So this report vindicates all those other reports and opinions by international actors.
Now, a number of European countries have said they will support a Palestinian state when they meet at the United Nations next week. What do you say about this, action? And is it long overdue?
Quite nonsensical, quite useless. Recognizing a Palestinian does what for Palestinians? It does absolutely nothing. This is a PR exercise that the United Nations runs all the time. I mean, countries that are actively supporting the aiding and abetting Israel recognize Palestine as a state. It means absolutely nothing. Palestinians are stateless. You recognizing that they have a state means nothing and their material conditions don't change. It's like people saying we support the two-state solution. That does what? It does absolutely nothing to Palestinians. Palestinians have given us a number of guidelines on how to support them in their struggle. Some of those measures are what happened in apartheid South Africa. They include arms embargoes, they include economic sanctions, they include sports and cultural boycott and so on. That's what Palestinians ask for. Palestinians have not asked for you to go around saying they deserve a state. It's like telling people they deserve to live. Palestinians they deserve to be people. They don't deserve to be people. They are people. They have rights. And they've asked for certain things before. They've asked for the international community to actively stop the genocide. Not some PR exercise to go to the United Nations and say that Palestinians deserve a state. It's very frustrating and it's very infuriating that this happens every time the General Assembly sits when Palestinians are dying in their thousands.
What should be happening? What should be happening on the ground? How should, you've just mentioned a few points in terms of an arms embargo and so on, but this is not happening. And this is something that's been unfolding in Palestine for many, many years.
Interesting enough, I was reading an article from Navi Pillay. She was being interviewed. Navi Pillay is the author of this particular report. She's a South African who fought apartheid, and she's a South African who headed the International Tribunal of Genocide in Rwanda in 1994, if I'm not mistaken. So she is well vested in international law. She has lived experiences of an oppressive system, and she has said right now that for us to stop the genocide, there must be action from international states. Now, the UN Security Council must sit and say, if Israel does not stop the genocide, we are going to put measures. What measures? Those include arms embargoes, but those include actively putting boots on the ground. And they've done this before. If the United States and for weapons of mass destruction that they are imagining in Iraq, they can do the same thing in Palestine. So in this particular instance, Judge Navi Pillay says they are going to have a list of people. These are the people that are responsible for the genocide, and these are the people who must be held accountable, therefore arrested, or there must be sanctions against them. So By the way, we are not asking for an anomaly. This has happened before. At the height of apartheid South Africa, the Pretoria regime had an arms embargo. If you remember very well, in the 80s, when Ronald Reagan was president of the United States, and he refused to sanction apartheid South Africa, it was the Congress of the United States that forced him to do it. So it has been done before. We are not wishing for a miracle here. The International Committee has done this before on many occasions, even when it comes to Myanmar of today after the genocide of the Rohingyas. So this is not a wish list. They've done it to Russia just now.
Yeah.
Just now, Russia is sanctioned. So we're not asking for something extraordinary. We're asking for Palestinians to live, for Palestinians to cherish their lives. That's it. That's all we're asking for. And for Israel to stop this madness.
Now, Ali,
in Palestine,
because of time, I'll have to interject there. Israel doesn't believe it's done anything wrong. Let's take a listen to what Daniel Meron, Israel's ambassador to the UN, had to say.
Israel categorically rejects the libelous rant published today by this Commission of Inquiry. It spreads the malicious genocide narrative. The report diverges from the mandate of the Commission, yet again stressing their biased analysis. Throughout the 72 pages of this paper that the COI presented, the COI promotes a narrative serving Hamas and its supporters in attempting to delegitimize and demonize the State of Israel. The report falsely accuses Israel of genocidal intent, an allegation it cannot substantiate, and even by its cherry-picked data.
What do you think about what he had to say?
I mean, we just have to look into history. History is the best teacher. Did the Hutu militias think they were doing anything wrong in Rwanda? Of course not. Were the militias in Myanmar think they were doing anything wrong, killing the Rohingya Muslims? Of course not. I mean, here back at home, when Sharpeville happened, when 1976 happened, so did the apartheid government come out and say we are wrong, we are killing innocent people? No. There's no oppressor, there's no perpetrator who will go on and say what we are doing is correct, what we are doing is wrong, and therefore we're going to stop it. No. History is the best teacher. Even Hitler in the times of the Nazis, when they were slaughtering Jews, he never went and said, no, what we're doing is wrong and we'll correct our ways. Of course not. So this is just one of the things that we must just brush under the rug. Really makes no sense.
Well, Ali, we have run out of time and are going to have to leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us on Africa Update. That's Ali Komape, Communications and Campaigns Manager for #Africa for Palestine, joining us on the line. And it is that time of the day where we say hello and happy Thursday to the Upside team. And it is Tabukhole Kuleni. How are you today?
I'm fantastic, Lulu. Thank you so much. Heated debates and conversations you're having, as always, on Africa Update. Yep. Love that. Here's what's coming up on the Upside this afternoon. It's Heritage and Culture Thursday this afternoon, and we're going to be talking about the history and heritage of African surnames. It's going to be our first conversation. Then the founder and president of Men's Council of South Africa will be joining us. This is in light of the recent Constitutional Court ruling that men are now allowed to take their wives' surnames. Deeply undermining
It's a very heated debate,
it's
that one.
It's
a very heated
It's going to be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
And then the need for more artisans in South Africa. And Africa in general, actually, with the rise of AI, we need more artisans on the continent. And then we are tailoring summer clothes for African women and preparing fashion for this new spring-summer season.
Interesting one. So do stay tuned on Channel Africa as the Upside come on from the top of the hour. For myself, Lulu Gaboo, and the Africa Update team, it's been a good one. Let's do this again tomorrow. And thank you to our team, producer Tracy Bumgard, our technical operator Nanda Koza, and social media as Fiso Hlope and talent Butelezi. Thank you for joining us and continue with us on our socials. Bye-bye.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet.